Hi, my name is Lakin Shaw, and don't mind my sunburn. Uh, I did not put on enough sunscreen as I went out in the sun today. Anyways, so with my field experience, I sat in on Miss Pathausen's class here in Dillon. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. She is so positive and so fantastic, and I learned so much from her. So it was a really cool experience to just like watch her and learn from her as well. Um, I am a poor college kid, and payday is not till Friday. So I don't have enough money for paper. So I have my handy dandy notebook. And it's gonna be backwards on this video, but and the school is closed, and so I couldn't find enough areas for a PowerPoint. So the notebook it is. I am sorry, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So anyways, all right, so the big thing is the big thing I wrote down here is you're gonna see this is backwards. The first thing that I really liked about Mrs. Pathausen is she was consistent. Every single class period, every single minute of the day was planned out to a T. Obviously we saw her at the very end of the year, so that was a little bit more even challenging because there were so many students missing, and I'll touch on that later. But even we see in Wong's videos and his text that the underlying factor is consistency. And if we're consistent with our moods and our lesson plans and everything else, if we're consistent with our students, our classroom management, our classrooms overall will be better just because the students know what to expect. And I really like that. So the big thing with Mrs. Pathausen's class is when you walk in, you see a board and there is rules, and they follow the entire school follows it. It's like a BCHS school, so it's the Beaverhead County High School rules, and which is in like they're set up on posters, and like there are things like be respectful to others, be honest, be kind, like all they had, and it was really, really useful. And she told me the very first day that she enters class is she goes over these rules, and and she's like, if you don't follow them, then we have an issue and we have to talk about it. So I thought that was really good, just because everyone follows those rules in the class, everyone follows those rules in the entire high school, and that is what it is. And so there's no surprises. You follow those rules or you don't, and if you don't follow them, then you get sent to the principal's office. So the next thing, what I really, really enjoyed about her is that she had so the next bullet point, along with her consistency, is that she had the assignments written down. So you see my next little bullet point there is that she had the assignments written down up on the board every day, and you saw like they were in the same spot every single day, which I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really good because it was like she taught 6 out of 7 periods, and even in between she had like a no free time. Her lunch periods were, she had clubs that she did. I mean, this woman worked nonstop. So for her convenience and for students' convenience, she would have each class period what they were doing, what the assignment was for the day, and then they would go from there. And she would explain that and at the beginning of class. And she would also point at that and say that. And then she would also, which I thought was really, really useful just because of the time of year, she would write, okay, so if it was a Thursday and she knew that there was a lot of sports going on Friday, clearly she was very, very involved. She would write down the assignments for Friday and be like, okay, guys, these are due on Monday. You need to have them done. And and so that was really useful. And even still, like, students were like, so what's due on Monday? And she's like, it's up on the board. So that was pretty funny. I got a good kick out of that. So what I really thought was actually really interesting, and I don't know if I completely agree with this, but I can understand it. I'll get to that in a minute. Excuse me. My third bullet point, right there, if you can, it's backwards, I know, is that students sat down and got to work immediately. There was no messing and fussing. Everyone knew, okay, this is what we're supposed to do once we sit down. And I know with Wong, that was a big thing. He made a joke in one of his videos saying, and he's like, I look so young, right? Because as basically, I don't work all day. I tell the students to get to work, and he says, get to work, get to work, get to work, right? And so that's what he says all day to his students. So he's like, my best time is when I leave the school, because you know what? I get to have some fun, right? And so that was that. I thought that related well to this, and that's what she says. She just get to work, get to work, get to work was basically her mantra, which I really, really liked. Anyways, and so the what I found was really, really good, and which I wrote about in after one of Wong's videos, I believe, was the use of a TED Talk. And Mrs. Paffhausen had a particularly difficult class, and she used the TED Talks to her advantage, and I thought they were super useful, and yeah, I'm stealing that from my class, because the students knew, okay, they had to do certain things for the TED Talk, they had to write certain things about it, and then at the end of the semester, they had to give their own TED Talk presentation and were graded on it, which I'm totally stealing that from my classroom, because I thought that was really good and really, I thought it was really inspirational for other students as well. So, and I talked to some of the other high schoolers, and they really liked it as well. So, I thought that was good, and they learned a lot from it as well. And so, another thing I really, really liked about Mrs. Paffhausen was that she was very, very personable. So that's my second bullet point, which I second bullet point of this section that I really, really liked about her, is that she was so personable. She is a confidentiality, obviously. She there was a girl that was she knows most of the students, right? I mean, she did grow up in Dillon. She knows everybody's parents. I mean, and she is extremely involved, which is really, really cool to see. But yeah, so one of the girls, she was having just a really hard time. She's, I think she was 16, and she was going through some massive medical stuff. And Mrs. Paffhausen, I mean, she was there for her. It was really great. I got to kind of watch it go down, and then she's professional, but she's also like, okay, well, she's very, very personable, and she's not afraid to, laugh with her students if they do something kind of funny, or, but she knows the times when to laugh and when to be serious, and she knows her classes well enough and her students well enough to be like that. So I really enjoyed that, because I'm kind of a goof when it comes to teaching, and so I really liked seeing the balance, because sometimes we can overcompensate for one or the other when we don't know how to deal with the students at hand. Obviously, that's why we're in classroom management. So the biggest advice that I got from Mrs. Paffhausen was keeping track of when students are absent. And that's you can't really see it, but it's the third bullet point in this particular section, which I thought was really interesting, because as I got to thinking about it, that was her biggest piece of advice. She just says, like, you have to keep track of when those students are absent, because the minute those students fall behind, if you give them the assignments, fine, that's not your fault anymore. But if you don't keep track of that, then it can turn into something really bad, and the students can fall behind, and it's not necessarily fair to them, right? So I thought that was really good, which I believe now, watching her deal with all of her students and trying to figure out who's staying, who's going, and who's in what sports, and I really thought that was really great of Mrs. Paffhausen to keep track of all of that. She held herself with such composure, and it was really cool to see. I hope that I can be that classy as a teacher. So the one thing, as I guess I mentioned a little bit before in this video, that I didn't necessarily I don't know if it's how I would teach it personally, but I understand and respect how Mrs. Paffhausen taught it. She doesn't give out any homework, but these students never stop working in her class, which I thought was really interesting because she did, like, okay, say they read like a half a chapter, they needed to finish the next half of the chapter in To Kill a Mockingbird, which I thought was really interesting. And so I don't know, as I got to thinking about it, I think I will, obviously, as a teacher, give out homework. I understand why Miss Paffhausen does it the way she does, because when she does give out homework, most of the time it's not done. So, and I don't know if that is just because she usually doesn't and then she doesn't expect it or what, but so yeah, so I thought that was really, really interesting that there was no homework given. Yeah, again, that's how she ran her classroom, and her classroom functioned very, very well because she compensated in different ways, obviously. So yeah, what I really, really liked was the next bullet point down is that the students knew exactly what to expect when they walked into a classroom. I really, really thought that was great. Which is another on consistency. Same with Jones and Wong. They really, really function on consistency. And if people know what's going on, there's a lot less anxiety. Crazy. And there was never any downtime. The students were always working. And I really, really appreciated that, because it was the same thing that Wong says. He's like, get to work, get to work, get to work, right? And you never want your students to have downtime. Exactly. So, yeah, so I really enjoyed, I just working with Mrs. Paffhausen, and I love the chance to talk to her again. She's such a really interesting person and such a great person to learn from. But yeah, so that would be my field experience, and those are the things that I've learned and kind of would incorporate or not incorporate into my classroom. Thanks for listening. Bye.